Simin Shin Yurches Sif Beis. So the Sif begins Hashochid b'Shabbos l'chola. So someone, if there's a chola sheyesh bo sakana, so he's in danger, a person's allowed to shecht an animal if it's needed for his health. Bein shechala meyatmo, whether this person became sick before Shabbos, bein shechala hayom, or whether he became sick on Shabbos, and mutter habari lechol mimenu chai. So a healthy person, after they shech the animal for the person who is in danger, so a healthy person is allowed to eat the meat from that animal as long as he eats it raw. But he can't eat it cooked. Because obviously you can't cook for someone who's healthy. That's a problem of Bishul and Shabbos. So therefore it would be forbidden to cook for him. But raw he would be allowed to eat it, b'Shabbos.
What about after? In other words, it was cooked already.
Right. So meaning it was cooked for the sick person and now he wants... So that I believe is the next, that would be included in the next part of the Mechaber.
You mean
that once they answered all cooking because of the Chashash Shema Yarba B'Shvila, maybe we'll say, oh, I'll make, let's say the Chola really needs 3, we'll make 4 just in case the Chola, and he'll, so that would be a problem.
Make enough exactly for the Chola, and then he decided he eats half of it and says, I can't eat anymore.
Right, so I think that would also be problematic, because they didn't want people to Yarba B'Shvila, and say that they're doing it for the Chola, so they answered all cooking, even though it really, let's say in your case, it was done for the Chola. But they answered eating anything that's cooked, or any Isser
Malacha. Only for the cooking, but you're worrying even after even the eating the cooked food.
Right. Just in
going
case
back, you're going to go back and make a
right. So they just answered it ubiquitously.
Right. So they just
people make excuses. Yeah.
Right, but you're saying it's for another time. It's not like because this time it's already done. No.
He says,
this person is already been cooked. There's nothing more you can do for it. You're saying for the next time there's going to be a chola, right? That's what your being goes there on.
Right, or this time because we're the Chashin and Shemi Yarba B'Shvila, we're concerned that you really.
No, that's at the time of cooking.
Yeah, so then afterwards, that if you allow to eat him, if you allow a healthy person to eat what was cooked for the chola, then going back he won't really, or the next, yeah. Someone who cooks for a chola, or he does other malachas, let's say he grinds food for the chola, or mixes, he does lush for the chola, he makes it like an oatmeal for the chola. Aser b'Shabbos labari, a healthy person is not allowed to partake of that food. And not only a healthy person, but even a chola who is not in a situation of sakana, he would also not be allowed to eat the chayshinan, because we're concerned Shema Yarba B'Shvila, that although you're allowed to cook or do malacha, any malacha that's necessary for a chola sheyesh bo sakana, a person's not allowed to do more malacha for the chola sheyesh bo sakana and a healthy person as well. He's only allowed to do what's needed for the chola sheyesh bo sakana, so therefore they asered eating cooked food for a healthy person to eat cooked food, or any other malacha that was done, even for the chola. However, when it comes to an animal, there we're not concerned that he'll shecht a bigger animal, or he'll choose a fatter chicken, or whatever is needed, or
shecht again.
Or shecht again. That for sure we're not. I don't think we would be concerned about that, because that's a whole another malacha. I suppose if you're adding more, you could rationalize it. But when it comes to doing a whole other shechting, then already that would be, I believe, more of a problem, and that won't be a concern.
Right. You're cooking more. You're not doing any ma'isa cooking.
Right. Right. See that you could. Yeah. Right. So that you could rationalize. But when it comes to, but shechting a larger animal, I don't think that would be a problem over here, because since the ma'isa Shabbos, what's the isser over here? The isser shchita, and you only do one action of shchita, no matter if it's a smaller animal or a larger animal. So therefore, when it comes to shechting, you would be allowed to eat the raw meat. And we're not concerned you'll shecht a larger animal because it's only one ma'isa Shabbos, and you're not being marber, you're not doing more malacha in order to ensure that a healthy person has food. So that would be permitted. So raw meat would be permitted, but any other malacha won't be, because it would be more ma'isa Shabbos. And the Ramah continues, he says, Va'afilu bishul al yedei goy aser. And even if it was cooked, there was no isser d'oraisa, it was cooked by a non-Jew. So if it's cooked by a non-Jew, it's only an isser of, let's say, amir la'akom, or being nene from a malacha vakum, and that situation still would also be asur on Shabbos. That as well would be asur on Shabbos. There's no heter of having a non-Jew cook and then the healthy person eating more of the food, the leftover food. Now the Ramah says it's Kiddush, which we'll see the Magen Avram is going to argue. If someone separates, let's say the sick person needs to have apples, and the guy in his backyard has an apple tree, so they go out to the backyard and they take apples off the tree for the chola on Shabbos. Even if he was already a chola from already Friday, Asr lebari b'Shabbos, a healthy person is not allowed to partake of the apples, mishum shegadol v'holech b'Shabbos v'yesh bo mishum muksa, because the fruit on the tree continue to grow on Shabbos, and therefore there would be a problem of muksa. This means because any muksa, the antithesis of something is muksa because it's not prepared for Shabbos. So something that wasn't in this world yet, let's say a chicken who lays an egg is a classic example of something that came into this world. Something that wasn't in the world and only came into the world on Shabbos can't be by definition prepared for on Shabbos. It didn't exist now. So too with this fruit that grows, continues to grow on Shabbos. So the fruit's growing, all that extra growth wasn't in the world yet. And since it wasn't in the world yet, it couldn't have been prepared for Shabbos, and therefore it's muksa. So says the Ramah, even though the chola was already a chola on Friday, any fruit to pick fruit from a tree and allow a healthy person to eat it would be problematic, because all the extra growth is considered to be muksa, because it wasn't in the world yet, it grew on Shabbos. That's a problem of muksa.
What's the difference in that case and in the case of the meat?
So the meat, the animal is there.
So
that's the Magen Avram. That we're going to get to. By the animal group, someone speaks that out.
Yeah, but that's for the sick person.
So
You're allowed to take apple. You're allowed to
It becomes about right. That's what the Magen Avram. The problem is
by an animal. He says here. The masha gadol bottle beroid. That's what the animal.
What's this in that an apple?
The amount that the hema grows on Shabbos is going to be bottle versus an apple.
An apple is a separate entity. Well,
I think it's just,
talking about how much.
But the apple grew more than
you think percent?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear it.
To use the same
No, but
let's say is there malacha the picking of the apple? Let's say the apple comes off the tree by itself. Oh, we're talking about the one Shabbos. Is that also because it's going to grow over time for that healthy person?
yeah.
so that would even be a problem if it didn't. Because already at the beginning of Shabbos, and that would already be a problem if it fell off the tree, because we're concerned once you begin eating it, you'll come to pick more food. So even if it wasn't for this issue, there would be another issue. So that would be even a separate problem. So that we'll see. So that.
The fruit, while it's on the tree, is still growing. Is there a moment when it stopped growing and it's still on the tree and it still would be muktzah? Or is there no such situation?
That the Magen Avram will speak about. When it becomes fully grown, then we say it becomes already ripe. Once it becomes ripe, then even if it's still attached to the tree, then we won't say it
And
grows.
as long as it's attached, it's
Even if it's still, then you have the other problems of the other meats. Right. So that's the Mechaber and the Ramah. So the Mechaber, so the Magen Avram, so just to go, so now the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram speaks about in the first case, the Mechaber spoke about whether the Chola became sick on Shabbos or whether he became sick already, he was already sick at the onset of Shabbos. So what's the Chiddush in that? So the Magen Avram explains what's the Chiddush. He explains Shechola Hayam, Ve'af al pi she'abehema ha'isa muksa machmas iser shchita mikol makom shari. There's a concept, even though, just to read the words, even though the behema was muksa at the onset of Shabbos, because you can't use it before shechting it, still, either way, it's still mutter. Why the kaim along, Kerev Shimon, Dein muksa machmas iser ela k'shadacha b'yadayim. The only time something's muksa, if you do an action to show that you're not intending to use this item. So which means like this. There's a concept in halacha we're going to learn I believe it's in Shin Yud Sif Zayin. So there's something called migudis katzoi, which means that something, if at the onset of Shabbos is muksa, then that status of muksa continues throughout, it still affects that item throughout the entire Shabbos. So
what's the Hebrew term again?
Migud is katsoy. Since it's already muksa. Right. Once Shabbos begins and it's muksa, then it retains its muksa status throughout the entire Shabbos, even if the reason why it was muksa is no longer there. For example, just one or two examples. Let's say a person has a drawer that's full of muksa items. So that drawer is now muksa. So what happens even after, let's say, the muksa items fall out of the drawer, a child takes it out of the drawer, so now the drawer shouldn't be muksa anymore because all the muksa is gone from the drawer. Still, we would apply the concept of migudis katoi, and it would remain muksa throughout the entire thing. Or if someone, just in one last example, if someone has bricks, so bricks are muksa, because right now they have no purpose, maybe just for building, but they're muksa. But if you had designated a brick before Shabbos to use as a door stopper, so that brick would not be muksa. If someone decides on Shabbos to take a brick, and which he has a pile of bricks in his backyard, and he now needs a door stopper, if he chooses to take one of those bricks and use it as a door stopper, since at the onset of Shabbos it was muksa, it doesn't help for him to designate it on Shabbos. So ask the Magen Avram, this animal here as well, at the onset of Shabbos there was no chola yet, and therefore the animal can't be used. The animal can't be used because it needs to be shechted. So it's muksa right now at the onset of Shabbos. So even if you wish to shecht it later, it still would be a problem of muksa.
Right. But this is Elieze, this is where the question comes in. Right. If we're talking about the chola sheish for sakana, who cares about muksa? I mean, not who cares, right? I mean, what's the problem? Shouldn't be a problem anyway. Right, so that's a great question. But l'chara it has to do with the bari. The healthy person is not allowed to eat it. So for sure for the chayla avada that would be more. So the whole discussion is for the bari. It would be the bari.
Even on the animal, we're talking about the chay.
Eating raw meat.
For eating it raw.
From that point of view,
right, it would still be a problem of muksa that you wouldn't be allowed to eat it.
But you take it and shecht it initially would have been okay. Forget it. Who cares about muksa?
Yeah, I mean we're dealing with much worse isurim. Isuri deraisa over here, so that for sure muksa won't be a problem. But for the healthy person,
the status it was before Shabbos.
That's your character, and then the healthy person would not be allowed to eat it.
But if it's muksa, you can't eat it raw.
Eat it, cook it.
Can't cook it anyway.
So you'll become a cook.
Now you take that away.
So the Magen Avram says it's not a problem because we hold like Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says that muksa, meaning there's a machlokes Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon, whether something that's muksa machmas iser has the status of muksa the entire Shabbos, or just when it's still, the thing that's asering it is still asering it. And we pass on like Reb Shimon that the only time something is muksa machmas iser is only when the thing is still asering it. However, Reb Shimon does agree when if something is muksa machmas iser and it's dacha b'yadayim, that means he does an action to show that he does not want to use it, then Reb Shimon would agree that it's muksa. But since in this animal he didn't do an action that shows he was not intending to use it, he just didn't do anything to the animal, so therefore even though it's muksa machmas iser, once that iser is removed from it, the thing that's answering it is no longer answering it, then it would be allowed. Then it would no longer be muksa according to Reb Shimon, and therefore a healthy person would be allowed to eat the raw meat after it's shechted when it's no longer muksa. That's what Magen Avram is saying.
So in the case of the brick, then wouldn't that, if you didn't do anything?
That's not muksa machmas iser. That's muksa machmas kufa. So there, Reb Shimon, the whole machlokes Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon is only by muksa machmas iser, not by chisar and kiss and all the other parts of muksa. The kaimel Reb Shimon, the ein muksa machmas iser ela b'shadacha b'yadayim. We hold like Reb Shimon, the only time something is aser muksa machmas iser is only when he did an action. He was dacha b'yadayim. He pushed it away with his hands. He did an action to show that he doesn't want to use it on Shabbos. And he gives examples. Could go ner shet liku alav. He lights a candle, and
what's that case?
So I think the case is he lights a candle, then the candle becomes like dirty and disgusting. So he shows that he's not intending to use it on Shabbos, because it just becomes not usable because it's so dirty.
And then something happens after?
No, so then you can, and now let's say after the candle goes out, you won't be able to use it anymore. So that you did an action to show you're not intending to use it for Shabbos.
So in our case here, if somebody would have, let's say, one cow, and he said before Shabbos, no matter what happens, even if my best friend gets very sick, I'm not going to shech this cow. And then it happened, and he shechted that cow because his friend got sick, then there you couldn't even have the chai, because it's muktzah.
That's what it was saying, yeah. That's what should come out, yeah. Right. So he says, Vikasha, then the Magen Avraham continues, he says, I don't understand. The Ramah Paskin, that if you have a fruit attached to a tree and you take it off, then the fruit is muktzah. You can't eat it. Vikasha demkein muktzah demechuber nami yehi moter kishinishra peros. Muktzah, the fruit right now are muktzah, they're attached to a tree, it's muktzah machmas iser. Because a fruit that is attached to a tree can't be used. Because the only way to access them is by taking them off the tree, which is an iser. So the l'chayra there should be mutter just according to Reb Shimon, because you didn't do an action that was dacha b'yadayim, you just left it on the tree. So why are fruit that fall off the tree muksa? V'yesh lomar dahasam taima shema yala v'yitos. You're right. The reason why fruit attached to a tree are muksa is because there's a new gezerah that maybe you'll come, if you're able to eat the fruit, maybe you'll come to take off more fruit off the tree. Kid isa reish bey, like the Gemara says in the beginning of Beya. So here there's a Levushay Sra that explains that why don't we say that by Shechita as well? That maybe if you're allowed to shecht an animal, you'll come to shecht more animals on Shabbos. Why don't you make the same gezerah when it comes to Shechita? So the Levushay Sra, it's on the page, I don't know where it is in the Shulchan Aruch.
On the left.
But he says, Aval Shema Yishcho Loi Chayshina. We're not concerned that if we allow you to eat meat of one animal, you'll come to shecht other animals. Didavar Tarachu Midkar, because it's difficult. You have to get a knife. You have to check the knife. There's no nicks on the knife. You have to. It's a lot of work. And by the time you get everything organized, then you won't come. You'll remember that it's Shabbos, and you won't come to shecht another animal. But by picking fruit off a tree, you pick up a fruit off the ground, you eat it, and then right there's a tree. It's almost second nature. You just pull another one off the tree, so that already would be forbidden, because a person won't have anything to remind him that it's Shabbos. V'o delo gezrinan ela beperos, and another reason we only made a gezer by peros, de be'o de bekapav yivalenu misav alahem, because while they're still in his hands, he'll swallow and he'll have a desire for more fruit. But by meat, I guess he would be more full after eating the meat of the first animal. And then the Magen Avraham says another distinction between fruit and an animal is v'ayin od sham tam bebeis Yosef. The Beis Yosef gives another reason. The reason it's brought down by the Maxis HaShekel and the Pri Megadim. They say that when it comes to fruit, since it's so easy to have arranged before Shabbos, the fact that you didn't arrange it before Shabbos, that's the equivalent of dachu b'yadayim. That shows that you don't want it. Something that's so easily arranged and you don't do anything about it, that's dachu b'yadayim. When it comes to shechita, since it is so difficult, so the fact that you didn't arrange it before Shabbos does not show that you're not interested in using it on Shabbos. Maybe it was just too difficult to arrange before Shabbos.
So that's the condition precedent for the healthy person eating, that has to be docha b'yadayim?
Yeah, so if it's docha b'yadayim, then the healthy person would not be allowed to eat it. If it's not docha b'yadayim, then after the isser is removed, then the healthy person would be allowed to eat it.
Oh, I see. So if it is docha b'yadayim, then you're not allowed.
Then you would not be allowed to, right?
Right. And here it's allowed because you've already taken the fruit off for the sick person, and there's some left over. Is that like?
So the Ramah holds that if you would not be allowed.
I'm not sure. I understand why the Magen Avraham says that you still that you can eat it. In other words, the docha b'yadayim no longer exists. It's not an issue.
So there's the Magen Avraham is contrasting two cases.
Right.
The first case of shechita, if you shecht an animal,
right,
so it's no problem of muksa after the animal is shechted.
Right.
The reason is because that you didn't do any action to show that you're not interested in using it. But when fruit are attached to a tree, after the fruit is taken off the tree, it still can't be used. It's still considered to be muksa. And the Magen Avraham says, why by shechita is it not considered to be muksa after the isser is removed, and by fruit it is considered to be shechita. It is considered to be muksa after the isser is removed. The Magen Avraham explains, because by fruit, we're concerned that maybe if we don't consider it to be muksa, you'll come and pick some other fruit off the tree. But by shechita is just so much more of a issue to arrange everything that we're not concerned that you'll come to shecht other animals.
Also by shechita there's no other melacha involved. The shechita this is it. No, there's no additional melachos.
But maybe a second animal.
By any other melachos, there can always be an additional melacha going on.
Right, but by shechita we're concerned that you'll shecht the second animal.
The shechita is done. There's no more melacha. It's
Why aren't we concerned that we'll cook the meat? Exactly. Isn't it better to eat cooked meat than raw meat? I mean.
Yeah, but could be that's. It seems like we're only concerned that you'll do the same malacha again.
Right.
Once we allow you to do shechita, you do more shechita. We'll allow you to use fruit that are once attached to a tree, you'll do. It's the same malacha. To do a whole other malacha, that already a person would easily make a distinction. That would be.
But we also said it with fruit. Since you didn't pick it before Shabbos, it's like you were docham b'yadayim.
Right.
It's a relatively easy thing to do, so that kind of fits with the kind of reasons kind of fit together a little bit. They're not completely separate.
Right. So that would be a good. So that would also be that. That I believe is the Beis Yosef's reason to say. So if it's something easily that could be easily arranged that you don't arrange, that's making a statement. I'm not interested. Or something that's more difficult to arrange. So it was too difficult to arrange before Shabbos, but you were never making a statement. You never made a statement. I'm not interested in using it. That would fit. Yeah, very. The Mechaber continued and said a healthy person could eat the raw meat on Shabbos. The Magen Avram says, "Ubeloi melicha." You're not allowed to salt the meat. V'ayim b'yaradei simin samach zayin sif beis the hadacha me'abai. But you would have to wash off the meat. V'ayim mashakasati simin shinchaf aleph sif hey. So what's the problem with salting meat on Shabbos? It seems that there's two potential issues with salting meat on Shabbos. There is what's the malacha?
They're Rabbanan, you're not allowed to do it.
Right. So why do the Rabbanan aser salting meat?
So you're going to cook it.
You're going to cook meat.
It's one part of the bishul.
That could be. That's. We're going to get to that reason. Yeah. But I just want to speak out two reasons. The first reason could be the one that the Magen Avram is Mitzayin and Shim and Shinchaf Aleph. Is you're not allowed to prepare leather, tan leather on Shabbos. The way that you made leather, I don't know how it works nowadays, but definitely in those days the way it worked is they would first, there were three steps. There was curing, tanning, and finishing. What they would first do, they would soak the leather in like a salt. They would cover it in a salt or a brine. That was in order to dehydrate the skin and remove all the liquid from it. Afterwards, they would tan it. They would soak it in a tanning solution and stretch it out. And then finally, the last step would be either if they wanted to make hard leather, they would press it. If they wanted to make soft leather, they would rub it with oil. But there were the three steps. Now, the first step, the curing, was they would cover it with salt. So the Rabbanan asered covering things with salt. Now, even though we would say because it's the first step of the tanning process, which itself would be a problem in Isser Daraisa on Shabbos. Now, although there's no ibud by ochel, the Araisa, the Rabban forbade salting foods in many situations because people will confuse it with other items. So therefore, to salt raw meat, and the purpose of salting this meat is in order to draw out the blood, so that would be a problem of ma'abed, of tanning. Because you can't salt some food, even food derabanan, in order with the intention of drawing out the liquid, because that's so similar to tanning. And therefore, says the Magen Avram, it's usher to eat this meat it's usher to eat the meat, it's usher to salt the meat, because that would be similar to tanning. That's one potential problem. The other potential problem was, for those who learned, you would know better than I right now, but in Hilchos Basar V'Chalav, there's a concept when you roseach kibishel, that if you salt something so much, it's so salty that it looks like it's really, so it's like you cooked it. So even though that Lagabe Hilchos Shabbos is not considered cooking, but since it's so similar to cooking, the Rabbanan asered it on Shabbos. Since Lagabe other halachas it's cooking, so the Rabbanan asered that on Shabbos as well. So therefore, says the Magen Avraham, you're not allowed to salt to meat one of these two issues. It seems that since he's Mitzayin Shin Chaf Aleph, it will be the problem of tanning. But these are the two potential issues with salting the meat on Shabbos.
It's interesting because Melicha Karaseach, I mean, in all the halachas and Melicha, specifically say that they don't apply to Shabbos.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of the other dinim of the that apply, it's not a Shabbos din.
Right. So that would be the Oraisa. But the Rabbanan, listen, not everyone learned Melicha. The Levushi Yisrael does point out you have to wash it because, again, you would know this, because of a problem of dam be'en.
Dam be'en.
Dam be'en is a problem, but the dam belua is okay.
Not a problem.
Right. So, okay, the Magen Avraham and Sifkat and Vav says Shema Yarber that we're concerned that maybe you'll add. The reason why a healthy person can't eat meat that was cooked on Shabbos for a chayla is because maybe you'll add more meat. So he says, what would be the problem of adding more meat? V'zeu iser de'oraisa kishemarbe b'shvila. This is an iser de'oraisa. It's usher to add, even though you're anyways doing the malacha, it's usher to add more items to that malacha. Let's say to add, if you need only 4 pieces of meat, to add a 5th piece of meat. That would be a problem, according to the Shita, of an Isser Daraisa of Marba B'Shiyurim. Afilu Kodem Shiyitan HaKedera Aleish. He says that's even true if you have the pot, and you have 4 pieces of meat in the pot, and you add a 5th piece of meat before the pot is on the fire. And there are those who say if you add the piece of meat before the pot was put on the fire, that would only be an Isser Derabanan, not an Isser Deraisa. So it seems to be a machlokas. It's a machlokas Rishonim, the way the Beis Yosef brings down, I believe it's a machlokas, the Rashba and the Ran. If you add a piece of meat before the pot goes on the fire, is that an Isser Deraisa Marva B'Shurim, or only an Isser Derabanan? So I think the Svaras are, is that how do you view this action of putting the pot on the fire? Do you view as you're doing one action of bishul, and therefore there's no problem of riba rishurim daraisa because you're only doing one act of bishul? Or do you view it, no, I'm putting a pot and it looks like I'm putting 5 pieces of meat on the fire. Instead of 4 pieces, I'm putting 5 pieces of meat on this fire. They happen to all be in one pot. If that's how you view it, then it would be an Isser Daraisa, because I'm putting each piece of meat on the fire, so I'm putting the pieces of meat that are needed for the chola, and then I'm putting the piece of meat that's needed for the healthy person.
That would be a problem. How many sick person want to eat? Maybe
let's
5.
Say
how do you know what his appetite is?
So you know, what?
Sometimes 1 is too much, sometimes 5 maybe he wants.
But you put an extra one specifically for a healthy person. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what you're doing.
Right, you know he will want 3 pieces of meat, and you put in a 4th.
You purposely do.
You purposely do. Now the question is, if you put that in the pot before you put it on the fire, was that an Isser Daraisa because it's as if you're putting 5 pieces instead of 4 pieces on the fire? Or no, it's only an Isser Darabanan because it's one action of putting a pot on the fire. Someone told me that Rabbi Chanan says as far that the reason why it's only an Isser Derabanan because I don't know which piece of meat is needed for the chola. So on each piece of meat I could say that this one's for the chola. So there's no piece of meat that I'm putting on for the healthy person. And therefore, according to these shitas, it's only the Isser Derabanan. These are the 2 possible.
You would eat leftover meat. None would cook for you. Eating leftover meat.
That I think that would still be a problem. Because we're concerned that you'll add more for the
to give to the dog.
In the Mishnah verse that it's okay.
Right?
Talking about only by visual.
I think you have to.
Okay. So Sifkat and Zayin, so he says, but even the Rama adds that even if it's cooked al yedei in akum, so there's no real Maisa Isser Shabbos because the whole akum is derabanan, still it's aser. Abu b'motzoi Shabbos muter miyad. But Motzei Shabbos, then it will be mutter miyad. So there's a big chiddush over here, that even though when we learned in the previous if a guy does an Isser Shabbos for you, there's a problem of B'chdei Sheyasu, that you would have to wait B'chdei Sheyasu. Over here, the Rabbanan were in Geyser. If you think about it, it really is a tremendous chiddush, because there's two svaras of B'chdei Sheyasu. One svar of B'chdei Sheyasu was that you won't come to ask a non-Jew to do that, to be over an Isser Shabbos. So l'chara, that reason should still apply. Meaning, if there's two reasons. The first reason is that you won't be nena from a Malacha Shabbos. So here you're not being nena from Malacha Shabbos, since what the guy did was done beheter, was needed for a chayla. So according to that reason, it's very understandable why it should be mutter miyad Matzei Shabbos, because there was no Isser Shabbos done. However, according to the other reason, that the reason we're concerned, why the Rabbanan required you to wait, B'chdei Sheyasu, was that in order that you won't come to ask a guy to cook or do a malacha for you on Shabbos, that reason should still apply. So it is a big chiddush according to that. Even according to that reason, it's still mutter miyad Matzei Shabbos.
But I mean, the svar would be that it's we're worried about this. It shouldn't be called be'enov, right?
Right.
But you're dealing here with the chayla sheish b'sakona, so there's nothing to suggest necessarily that it's going to be called be'enov. And then next time he's going to do it again, because you're not dealing with the chayla sheish b'sakona on a regular basis, on every Shabbos.
Right. Yeah. Right. No.
So
you think it's even according to that reason, you want to say it's pasha?
No, is that only for the? Is that only the case where the non-Jew cooks it, or let's say you cooked it for the sick person?
Then certainly you won't have to wait B'chdei Sheyasu.
Oh, you don't have to wait. You need it immediately.
In Matzei Shabbos, yeah.
Do it for somebody in a non-chayla situation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that would. This is I was speaking of really as a Pri Megadim. He says, "Kamashma the ein sarach deshi yasu kol sha'asiya haya beheter." Why the af l'chayla shein by sakana? We're not concerned whatever it will be done for chayla shein by sakana. But either way, according to both shitas, this is permitted miyad Matzei Shabbos. V'taimain explains what's the reason. That the kivan the akam bishul beheter leibay lahamtim b'chdei sheyasa. Since it was done beheter, you don't have to wait b'chdei sheyasa. So just to point out that besides there's always a second problem when a guy cooks. There's a problem besides bishul on Shabbos. Isser Shabbos is also a problem of bishul akam. So the Gra already speaks out. Ve'ein bo mishum bishuli nachrim. In Eis Vav, the Gra speaks out. It's Dibur Maskava Filu, and if there's no ice, yes, he says at the end of the ice, in the short ice, in Zion, it says B'Shabbos la'afuki bin Matzei Shabbos, and he says Ve'ein b'ad mishum b'shulei nachrim, and there's no problem of bishul akum, kiven de lo shchichi ein bo mishum chasanis. Meaning the whole reason why they asked for bishul akum is in order that there be a separation between Jews and non-Jews, so they won't intermarry. But that's only if they constantly are cooking for each other. But once in a while, like a rare case that it's a chayla sheyesh b'sakana on Shabbos, there they were never geyser. And the Mishnah Berurah brings this down. He says, in Yudalid, he brings this down. He says, Aser b'Shabbos. He brings down Aser b'Shabbos lebari lahenes mimenu. So it's in Sifkat and Yudalid. He says, Avo b'Matzei Shabbos muter miyad. V'tayma dekivan shteini Yehudi bishul beheter leibay lahamtin. Even though the non-Jew cooked it, and because the non-Jew cooked it beheter, you don't have to wait b'chdei sheyasu. Then he adds, v'lo gazru ba mishum bishule eni Yehudi, and they were never geyser because of bishul akum. Now this halacha that they were never geyser mishum bishul akum, there's another Mishnah Berurah later on in Siman Shin Chav Ches, which seems to say not like that. The Mishnah Berurah in Siman Shin Chav Ches Sivkat Samach Gimel says. He says that in Sif Yotet, it says Chayla she'im by sakana muter b'beshuli eni Yehudi. So on that the Mishnah Berurah comments and he says, "V'afal gav deshar isider abanon asher l'chayla she'im b'sakana l'achol v'lishtais ki de'isa b'yardeya." So shiny bishul akum she'in isura machmas atzma. And he says, "V'gam achol u'mevarach aleh." He says, but he says, "Masha nishar." But what's left over? So he eats. So l'chayla she'im b'sakana, the non-Jew cooks for him. And he has left over, so now it's Matzoi Shabbos. It says, "Umashin nishra la-Matzoi Shabbos, aser afilu l'chayla atzmai." That's aser even for the chayla himself. Kivan she'efshel lavashel az al yidei Yisrael. Since Matzoi Shabbos already a Jew could cook for him, so now you can no longer rely on the heter of that a guy's allowed to cook, that they were, like the Gemara says, they didn't make the gezer over here, and therefore the food becomes aser even for the chayla himself, Matzoi Shabbos.
One's talking about cholash.
So it could be that's the chiluk. So it could be that's the chiluk. Yeah. So it could be that. Yeah. It could be that's the chiluk. But they speak out that it's that it is a seer, but that could be the chiluk between these two cases. Why a chayla she'im b'sakana? You have to know what the svara would be. The svara of the Mishnah Berurah is right now that the Yisrael could cook for him. So who cares what the heter was initially? The Maisa right now, the svara of the Mishnah Berurah should apply. That a Yisrael could cook for him. So
you have kind of those much more shkiach, maybe it'll happen more often.
That could be. I hear it. Yeah, I hear it. That could be.
I saw in the Shulchan Aruch Harav, לגבי בישול אקוס, it says, ואין צורך להמתין בקדשיה, it says, כיוון שאנוכי עושה בהתר לצורך החוילה, במה דבור ממון, it says, בשאר מלוכוס, but חוץ מהפיה בישול, this according to the Rabbi brings.
Because it is the Shulchan Aruch Harav also is saying, Aser is as bishul akum. And then he goes and continues and says over there in Shin Chavkas, it gets more strict. Va'kelim shel bishul akum also tzricha hechsher.
This is the nachloikas actually. They grow in if the kelim are also became
right.
So or not.
Yeah, so that's So if you hold this out, it could be even the kelim would be a problem of bishul akum. So these are the. But Al Kapanim over here, the Mishnah Berurah paskins that bishul akum would not be a problem, and certainly the kelim also there would be no problem of bishul akum. Okay, the last Magen Avram. So the Ramah had written that if you take fruit off a tree for the chayla on Shabbos, it would be a problem of muksa. That means even a healthy person would not be able to eat it because some of the fruit grew on Shabbos. So the Magen Avram says, Umayri. It's not speaking about every situation where you pick fruit off a tree that there would be a problem of muksa, but it's specifically beperi shelo nigmar bishulo, that the fruit haven't fully ripened. But once the fruit become fully ripened, we don't say that it still continues to grow. Meaning that once it's ripe, even if it's still attached to the tree, we say that's it. It's fully developed.
It's not growing up anymore, or is growing up anymore.
So a person who grows fruits can tell. Listen, bananas become ripe when they're yellow. If they're bright green, then they're not ripe. Certain fruit we just know. Let's say they become softer, they change colors. Like we should be able to know a lot of fruits. The imloikain, and now the Magen Avram proves it, because if you don't distinguish between fruit that are fully ripened and fruit that aren't fully ripened, lama itzrach beparakama debeya laser mechuber mishum shema yalav yitloisha mishum muksa. Why do you have to aser fruit that are still attached to a tree? Because of a new gezerah, maybe you'll come to pick fruit off a tree on Shabbos. You have this reason. You have the reason that anyways it grew on Shabbos. So if it grew on Shabbos, it's muksa because it's nolad. It's something that came into Shabbos the first time. Vayim betoso shenitku kusham Babylon the Meber, and Tosa struggles with it. What's the reason? Babylon the Meber mishum shegada v'halach. The reason why it's also because it grew on Shabbos. That's what the Gemara should have said. El al karchach. The reason why the Gemara didn't do that, it didn't give this reason. You have to say because the Gemara is going kishenigmar bishulov shuv eino godo. When it's fully ripened, once it's fully ripened, then the fruit does not grow anymore. and now you can't say it should be asr, it's nola, because the fruit has finished growing. Nothing, no new fruit came into the world on Shabbos. So therefore the Magen Avraham says, I've proven to you that there's a distinction between fully ripened fruit and fruit that isn't fully ripened before Shabbos. V'imkein mahani achana, if the fruit was fully ripened. V'achi dayak lashon orchos chaim, ein beis yosim. This is right, mashma in the orchos chaim others. Now, here already he's going to argue. V'ayim metosis b'bava kama daf samach tes, the masha gadol batel bero. So ask the Magen Avraham, wait 1 second. All what I said is wonderful. That there's that fruit grows on Shabbos. I've explained the Ramah. Fruit grows on Shabbos, and therefore it's a problem of muksar. But the problem is the Tosas and Baba Kama says that any extra growth, that little bit that grew on Shabbos is batel berov. The Ayin Simin Shin Chaf Sif Beis, which also is clear that any new growth on Shabbos it will be batel. Ubebeya betosvus daf lamed zayin am beis mashma dezelo havi muksa afilu Rabbi Yehuda. And Tosas and Baba and Beya is mashma that little bit that grows on Shabbos is not muksa, not even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who's more machmer when it comes to Isser Muksa. Da behema nami gadla v'holcha. And Tosas proves right, a behema also grows on Shabbos, and then it's mutzah l'shchita b'yantif. You're allowed to shech the behema on yantif. It grew on yantif. L'chayr should be muksa. It never. If an egg is laid on yantif, you can't use that egg because it's muksa. It now came into the world for the first time. So behema as well. Although you see that if it just grows a little bit, that's batal. So too says the Magen Avraham, the fruit that grew a little bit on Shabbos, that extra part which you consider to be muksa should be bottled to the rest of the fruit. Ayin Shem B'Tosas, look at Tosas over there. So the Magen Avraham explained the Ramah, but he argues on him. He says, L'chara, you're right that it's the extra growth should be muksa, but that muksa is bottled berov. And this is also, if you take a look at the Gra in Ois Chas, the Dibur Maskul V'im Afilu, so the Gra as well also argues. At the end of the thing, he brings down the whole Gemara, and he brings down the whole Pshat. If you take a look, he explains the Ramah. He explains in the middle. It says, "V'lo amrinan de gedulim betelim," and we don't say that the growth that grew on Shabbos is betelim berov ve'ikar. It's batel berov. Why? Mishum dahavi davar sheyesh lo matirim, because it's davar sheyesh lo matirim. Davar sheyesh lo matirim is not batel berov. Kemo shekasu hatosu baba kama daf samach tes amid aleph. Avalafi mashakasu b'simin shin chaf sif beis v'yardei simin kuf beis sif da'ala b'haga is muter. Says the Magen Avraham, says it grew up, but according to what it said over there, in Shin Chaf it should be mutter. V'ayim Magen Avraham, and take a look at the Magen Avraham, who Taka does argue on the Ramah. So therefore, the Gra, it seems usually the way, at least my little bit of experience in Gra, when he says the Pshat and then he says Aval and he ends off like that, so he's coming to argue on the Ramah. He's coming to argue. So here as well, he's coming to argue on the Ramah, and especially when he's mitzayin someone who argues, so he's coming to argue on the Ramah. And so it comes out we have a machlokas, Ramah and Gra and Magen Avraham, fruit that grew, that little bit that grew on Shabbos, is that a problem of muksa or not? So how do we paskin? So the Mishnah Berurah, and I believe it's the last Mishnah Berurah in this sif, he brings, it's in Ois Sifkan Tazayin. He says, I am the Magen Avraham. So he says, I am the Magen Avraham shemaksha de libatel hagedulim beikar shu ha'rayv shel heter v'yehei mutter. So he says that the Magen Avraham asks on the Ramah, why is the fruit, the extra growth on Shabbos, a problem of muksa? It should be batel b'rayv. V'yehei mutter lebari kishenechlim b'bod yom, and it should be mutter for a healthy person when the chola became sick erev Shabbos. U'bebir agra mitzadik gam kein lahalacha. And the Bir Agra also, he's more inclined to say this, lahalacha, that it should be mutter. It seems like, it seems that right now, obviously, if it's not so negeya, but if it becomes negeya, you'll ask. But it seems like from this Mishnah Berurah that he's mitzaded to say that it will be mutter. He seems to be passing like the Gra and the Magen Avraham, not like the Ramah.